Okay, I want to start today with a question. It's one I found buried deep in our research, and it's one of those questions that just, it stops you in your tracks.
Hmm.
It sounds so simple, almost childish, but the second you actually try to answer it, the implications are just, oh, they're massive.
I think I know the one you're talking about.
The question is, what if eating was never meant to be our only source of fuel?
It's a great opener. It's provocative because it immediately challenges one of the most uh, foundational assumptions of modern life,
Right.
that biological survival is just a math problem, calories in versus calories out, thermodynamics, but for a person.
Exactly. And that is how we operate, isn't it? I mean, just look at the entire health industry. Obsess over macros, we track calories, we follow all these specific diet plans, paleo, keto, vegan, all of it. We treat the body like it's a combustion engine. You put gas in the tank, the car goes. Simple. If the car sputters, well, the tank's empty. Shovel more coal in.
But the sources we're looking at today suggest that model isn't just incomplete. It might be missing the main event entirely,
You're saying we're missing the fact that the car has solar panels on the roof.
or a regenerative braking system, to use your analogy.
Yeah.
The core theme across all this material, and we're talking about everything from Vedic India to Taoist China, even the geometry of Gothic cathedrals, is that ancient cultures saw nourishment as layered.
Layered.
Food was definitely part of the equation. No one's denying that. But it wasn't the whole thing.
So that's our mission for this deep dive today. We're going to explore this ancient view of the human body. We're going to look at the difference between seeing the body as a closed system, like that machine that just needs coal,
Right.
and seeing it as an interface with a larger energetic field.
And this is going to take us to some really surprising places. It's not just about diet. I mean, we'll talk about concepts like prana and chi, sure. But we're also going to look at why things like the Great Pyramids and Gothic cathedrals might actually be giant energy alignment tools. And maybe most importantly for anyone listening who's a bit skeptical, how modern science is finally catching up to these ancient metaphors about, say, light as food.
Okay, let's unpack that. I want to start with the vocabulary because the sources list these three specific terms that pop up again and again in different cultures: prana, chi, and pneuma.
Right.
Now, usually when I hear those words, I think of a yoga class, maybe a martial arts movie where somebody throws a fireball or something. But in this context, what are we actually talking about?
So prana is from the Vedic traditions of India. Ki, or chi, is central to Taoist China. And pneuma is the ancient Greek concept. And you're right, in the modern West, we tend to just dismiss these words.
We treat them like poetry.
Exactly. Poetic fantasies or just metaphors for feeling good.
Yeah,
But the texts are really clear about this. They were not understood as metaphors,
they were.
completely literal. They were understood as these subtle but distinct sources of vitality. Think of them as the electricity running through the wires of a computer, whereas food is just the hardware itself.
And the sources list some of these non-food nourishments. It mentions breath, sunlight, rhythm, and even stillness.
Exactly. And to understand why those things were seen as food and not just, nice environmental factors,
Yeah.
you have to fundamentally change your model of the human body. And this is the crucial distinction the sources make.
The closed system versus the interface.
That's the one.
Okay, let's break that down. The closed system. That's basically how most of us live today, right? It's our default setting.
It is, yeah. The modern materialistic view is that the body is this closed loop, an isolated biological machine.
Right.
Energy acts within it. But the only new energy getting into the system comes from what we physically consume, liquids and solids. So if you feel tired, the modern assumption is almost always chemical.
I need sugar, or I need caffeine.
I didn't eat enough protein. It's a scarcity model. You're always running out of fuel unless you physically shovel more in. You're just a battery that's constantly draining.
Whereas the ancient view, the interface view, is completely different. The source describes the body as porous, responsive, and relational.
Porous is such an interesting word choice.
It is. It sounds a little vulnerable, but
Sure.
also open.
It implies that the boundary between you and the environment isn't as solid as we think.
Mm.
The body is continuously exchanging energy with its environment. It's not just burning fuel, it's receiving signals. It's like the difference between a flashlight that runs on batteries and a radio. A flashlight only runs on what's already inside it. A radio runs on a signal it receives from the outside.
There's a phrase in the notes that really stuck with me here: ancestral memory. It suggests there was a time when humans felt embedded in a living field,
Yes.
not just isolated consumers acting within a dead field.
And that is a profound shift in perspective. If you see yourself as an isolated consumer, you are constantly in a state of scarcity. You have to go get the energy and put it inside you.
Right.
But if you are embedded in a living field, you're basically swimming in energy. So the question changes from how do I get fuel to how do I align myself to receive what's already here?
Okay, but let's play devil's advocate for a second. If we're swimming in energy, why are we all so tired? If this ki or prana is just everywhere, why do I still need a triple shot espresso to get through a Tuesday afternoon?
That is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And the source argues it's a problem of receptivity, not availability.
Receptivity.
Yeah. If your radio is tuned to static, or if the antenna is broken, it doesn't matter how strong the broadcast signal is. You won't hear the music. You just get noise.
Which leads us perfectly into the next section. Because if the body is an interface, like a smartphone or that radio receiver, you need a way to plug it in.
Or tune it to the right frequency.
Exactly. And according to these sources, that is where architecture comes in.
This is where it gets really, really interesting.
Yeah, I did not see this coming. I thought we were just going to talk about diet and breathing. But the source lists specific structures. The pyramids, Gothic cathedrals, star forts.
Sites built with sacred geometry.
I usually think of these as just impressive old buildings. Or, religious symbols. Look how big our God is.
And they are those things, sure.
Yeah.
But the argument here is that they are not only symbolic or aesthetic. We look at a Gothic cathedral and we think, wow, they really wanted to honor the divine with something beautiful.
Right.
But the source suggests that function was just as important as form. These structures were designed to orient humans within cosmic patterns.
Orient us how? I mean, are we talking about magnets or something?
In a way, yes. But it's through the manipulation of light, sound, proportion, and resonance.
Okay.
Think about the acoustics in a cathedral. You know that feeling when a choir sings and you feel it in your chest?
Oh, yeah, it's visceral. It literally shakes you.
That's resonance. The dimensions of these spaces were often based on musical ratios. Literally, music made of stone. The Great Pyramid is aligned with the stars with a precision that borders on impossible.
So these were technologies.
They were giant tuning forks. That's the argument.
A tuning fork. That's a great visual.
A tuning fork doesn't create sound from nothing. It resonates with a frequency that's already there. These buildings were designed to help the human interface resonate with the field. They were, in effect, charging stations for that subtle energy we were talking about.
So you walk into a cathedral and the geometry itself, the space, aligns your porous body to a specific frequency.
That's the theory. And the text makes a big point about the precision of these places. It says the construction often exceeds what we can easily replicate today. We're talking about massive stones cut to within a fraction of a millimeter.
Right. This is a common theme in alternative history, the whole how did they do it question. But here, it's being used to support a specific point about nourishment.
Exactly. If these cultures were primitive, we could just dismiss their ideas about prana or ki as superstition.
Yeah.
Oh, they just didn't understand biology.
Sure.
But because the engineering is so advanced, these fingerprints of a forgotten sophistication, it kind of compels us to take their philosophy seriously, too.
So the argument is, they knew how to build structures that could last thousands of years with impossible precision. So maybe they also knew something about human energy that we've forgotten.
They weren't just piling up rocks. They were engineering environments where the human body could maximize its connection to that energy field. They were building high-fidelity zones in a world of static.
Which makes our modern concrete boxes seem a bit depressing, frankly.
It does make you wonder about the energetic nutritional value of a cubicle, doesn't it?
Ooh, I'd rather not think about that. Let's pivot to the instruction manual part of this. We have the body as an interface, and we have architecture as the alignment tech. But the source material also says we might be misreading our most famous books.
Yes, specifically spiritual and biblical texts.
It suggests these weren't meant to be read literally, but as allegories or maps. And it gives some specific examples that I want to run by you. The body as a temple, light as food, bread as wisdom, water as consciousness.
When you look at those through the lens of the interface model, they stop sounding like poetry and start sounding like instructions.
Instructions for what?
For inner alchemy.
Inner alchemy. That sounds pretty mysterious. What does that mean in practice?
It's just the process of transforming one form of energy into another within the body. So take bread as wisdom. Literally, bread is carbs. But metaphorically, if bread represents some dense form of knowledge or experience, then the act of eating isn't just about digestion, it's about integration. You have to break it down to make it part of you.
And light is food.
If the body is an interface, then getting sunlight isn't just about getting a tan, it's a metabolic necessity. It's the solar panel drawing a current. These metaphors are all pointing inward. They describe how our perception, our breath, our attention, how all that affects our vitality.
This brings up a topic that usually makes people roll their eyes, the breatharian or pranic path.
Right.
And usually when you hear breatharian, you think of extreme starvation diets where people claiming they never eat, which almost always ends up being dangerous or just a hoax. But the source nuances this.
It does, and that nuance is critical because it's so easy to get this wrong. The source clarifies that in these ancient traditions, this path was not about restriction. It wasn't a command, thou shalt not eat.
Right. It wasn't an eating disorder disguised as spirituality.
Exactly. It was an exploration of freedom. It was about the freedom of relationship to consumption.
Freedom of relationship. I like that phrasing. What does that actually look like?
It asks the question, how flexible is the body's sense of fuel, really? We just assume the fuel tank only takes gasoline. These traditions asked, can it run on electricity? Can it run on solar? Can it run on resonance?
So it's not about starving the body.
No, it's about discovering that the body might be supported by regulation and alignment just as much as it is by solid matter.
So it shifts the focus from denial to expansion. We're not denying yourself food, you're expanding your definition of what nourishment even is.
Precisely. If you are fully charged by sunlight and deep breathing and a resonant environment, maybe you physically need less dense matter to sustain you. It's about efficiency.
But, and here's where I have to play the skeptic, or at least the realist. We live in the 21st century. I have deadlines, I have stress, and frankly, I trust science. Is this all just ancient woo-woo, or is there a so what for the modern listener who isn't going to go live in a cave?
This is where the source material does a great job of bridging that gap. It connects these woo-woo ideas directly to modern scientific curiosity. Because interestingly, science is starting to validate the interface model. It just uses different vocabulary.
Okay, what are some of those parallels? Because I feel like if you tell a biologist, I eat light, they're probably going to laugh at you.
They might laugh at the phrasing, but not at the mechanism. Take light as food. We now know all about circadian rhythms. We know that sunlight hitting your retina regulates hormones like cortisol and melatonin.
Right, we hear about this with, like, the protocol for morning sunlight exposure?
Exactly. That sunlight dictates your energy levels, your sleep quality, even your metabolism, how you process sugar. That is literal energy regulation from light. Your mitochondria, the power plants of your cells, are light sensitive.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they function differently depending on your light environment. So when the ancients said the sun feeds you, they weren't wrong.
True. So light as food is actually biologically accurate? What about breath? Breath as prana.
Modern neuroscience tells us that the way you breathe directly alters your nervous system state. If you're shallow breathing, you're in sympathetic mode, fight or flight. You're burning energy rapidly.
The car is just revving in neutral.
Exactly. You're leaking fuel. But slow rhythmic breathing shifts you into the parasympathetic state, rest and digest. It restores metabolic efficiency. You are literally conserving and generating vitality through your breath.
You're changing your blood chemistry.
You're changing the chemistry of your blood, the pH levels, the oxygenation, just by changing the rhythm. That is prana in action.
And the list goes on, right? Stillness, restoring metabolic efficiency, meaning and safety influencing energy levels. I mean, we all know that stress, which is just a lack of safety, burns energy like crazy.
It does. The brain consumes a massive amount of glucose when it thinks there's a threat. So if you feel safe and aligned, maybe because you're in a structure that feels coherent or you're practicing mindfulness, you are literally reducing your caloric overhead.
That's a great way to put it, caloric overhead. If your overhead is lower, you don't need as much incoming revenue or calories to stay afloat.
So the synthesis here isn't to reject science or to reject food. The expert view in the source is that this ancient wisdom contextualizes physical nourishment.
There's a core maxim in the text that sums this up perfectly. Food feeds the body. Alignment feeds the system.
That is the takeaway. Wow. You can eat all the kale and organic protein in the world, but if your system, your interface with the environment, your nervous system, your circadian rhythm is out of alignment, you will still feel depleted.
It's like trying to fill a bucket that has a hole in the bottom. Or, going back to the car analogy, it's like putting premium gas in a car with a dead battery and spark plugs that don't fire. It doesn't matter how good the gas is.
Right. The ancient question wasn't, should humans stop eating? That's just a misunderstanding. The real question was, How many ways can life be sustained when humans live in harmony with the field that surrounds them?
Harmony over dogma. So it's not about being rigid. It's not about, I only eat air now.
No, it's about recognizing that we are more than just a digestive tract. We are a complex system designed to resonate with the world around us. And when we block out nature, when we stay indoors under fluorescent lights, breathing recycled air, surrounded by noise, we're starving a part of ourselves that macros can't fix.
As we wrap this up, I'm just thinking about how this changes the whole definition of being nourished. We spend
Yeah.
so much time thinking about what we put in our mouths.
Yeah.
But maybe we need to spend just as much time thinking about where we put our bodies. Are we in sunlight? Are we in silence? Are we in structures that make us feel expansive or compressed? It feels like we need an environmental diet as much as a food diet.
It really is about resonance and regulation as much as it is about calories. And I think what's exciting is that as consciousness evolves, these questions are coming back. But they aren't returning as, religious dogma. They're returning as curiosity.
Right.
We're exploring these ideas not to reject the body, but to understand it more completely.
That's a pretty hopeful message, actually. It suggests we have more control over our vitality than we think. We're not just victims of our grocery list or our genetics.
Absolutely. We have access to sources of fuel that are free, abundant, and always available,
Hey.
provided we know how to tune in to them.
Yeah.
It really empowers the individual to take charge of their own energy state.
I want to leave everyone with the final thought from our source material today, because it's a bit of a mind bender to chew on. We are exploring these ideas not to escape matter, but to remember that matter was never all there was.
A beautiful reminder that there's always more to the picture than what we can touch and taste.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Check your alignment, take a breath, and maybe step outside for a few minutes. We'll see you on the next one.